to like and share and subscribe.
What is up, Broncos country, and welcome to another episode of Keep Your Eye on the Ball, your YouTube channel dedicated to all things Denver Bronco football. As you can see, we are in another location, again in the palatial Keep Your Eye on the Ball studios, mostly due to work and time commits at this point. But the background isn't important. What's important is the knowledge that I'm dropping on you for our latest roster review, which will be the wide receivers this week. This has the potential to be the deepest part of the roster, and also may have a couple little speed bumps and some drama in there if we can believe reports that have just come out. So as always, remember to like, remember to share, remember to subscribe, remember to buy me presents. And without further ado, let's get into the episode. So without further ado, let's get into the receiver review. Now, I'm going to give you my three starters. I say three just because Denver typically uses multiple wide receiver sets in their starting unit. So I will be giving you three names with that. This is going to be pretty much set in stone. I don't see too many surprises here. So I'll just run them down. You have Courtland Sutton. You have Marvin Mims, and you have Josh Reynolds. It'll probably be Sutton and Reynolds on the outside, with Mims being moved around anywhere from like the slot to maybe like just different multi-wide receiver sets. I think he's going to be more of an inside guy than an outside guy, but it's going to totally depend on where Sean Payton wants to use him. They did this with Jerry Jeudy. The reason that they gave us later for moving Jeudy is to get Marvin Mims on the field. So far we haven't seen that in the preseason. Hopefully that gets corrected once the season starts. But obviously, Courtland Sutton, our best wideout, probably going to be our best wideout again this season. I think he's going to have a 1,000-yard season if he's healthy and he's motivated. And it looks like he's both so far. Josh Reynolds, good veteran wideout, a good complementary piece, is going to be a good veteran presence in what figures to be a younger team. And I like the fact that he's kind of sliding into the same role that he had in Detroit. And he's not going to be counted on for like a bumper production, but just to kind of do what he did as far as what he did in Detroit. And again, with Marvin Mims, super talented. I really hope that we see a jump in his production this year. Maybe like 50 balls, 750 yards, and maybe like 6 scores. I think it is reasonable, but we'll see. Either way, I think that these are good weapons for whoever the starter may be, most likely Bo Nix. So again, we're going to get into the backups, and I think that the backups have a lot of talent there, but there are going to be some pitfalls to talk about as well. So getting into our backups now. This is going to depend on how many wideouts the Broncos actually keep. I'm projecting that they keep anywhere from 6 to 7, so I'm going to make my backup prediction based on that 6 to 7 range. So let's get into it. I think that the three backups that they'll be keeping will be LJ Humphrey, Troy Franklin, Timmy Patrick, and Devon Bailey. Starting at the bottom with Bailey. If there's a guy that reminds me of a young Timmy Patrick, it's actually Devon Bailey. Similar body style, similar style of play. It's really just going to be a matter of getting him on the field. I personally did not even really love the Devon Bailey pick when they made it out of Utah. But man, he has already had some circus catches in training camp, and he looks very, very good. I know he didn't play yesterday as a precaution, but anything that I've seen from training camp has just been glowing reviews of Bailey. Moving on, then you have LJ Humphrey. Veteran guy from last year, good downfield blocker. I think he's underrated as a wide receiver, but he's going to be on the fringe. I think it's going to be just depending on if they decide to keep that extra wide receiver or not. I don't think the downfield blocking is as big a premium when you have a guy like Josh Reynolds on the team, and even Courtland Sutton's a really good blocker for a wideout. So we'll see. I think it was more important to have him on the roster last year to kind of help getting people acclimated to the new offensive scheme. I don't think it's as important this year, but he is a good wideout. Next, you have Timmy Patrick. Not much to say about Timmy Patrick. Now, the rub with Timmy P is that there was some whispers going around that he was actually on the roster bubble. I've talked about this with some other people wondering why he would be placed on the bubble when they did all this restructuring the organization to keep him in the fold. I will say that sometimes you make those decisions without the gift of hindsight, and you kind of have to make those in the moment decisions. They might not have known what they had in Vele and might not have had too many expectations on him from where he was drafted, and the fact that he's played as well is indicative of the fact that you're always looking to make your roster better. Now, in Timmy Patrick's defense, I think he's been easily the Broncos' best receiver so far. So I don't actually see them moving on from him. I do see his role being a little bit different, but I also, he's just playing too well right now for them to move on from him. That's my guess and my hope, because I really do like Timmy P. And Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin is a bit of a concern. Obviously, the team did move up to get him in the 4th round, but the reason that he dropped to the 4th round was due to some character concerns with not being in love with football. Whatever that means. But for a guy that they've done a lot to try to showcase in camp and in games, he has done next to nothing. And it's too early to say after 2 preseason games if a guy's a bust or not. But when you kind of factor in all the other ancillary stuff and now he's not playing well, it does make you pause a little bit. But the reason that Timmy Patrick was even going to be expendable was because Troy Franklin was one of the guaranteed roster spots. Again, I'm just reporting the news. I don't make the news. I just report it. And that's what Mike Kliss actually came out and said. So let's move on to the best of the rest. I will have my iPad out. And if I had to guess, we're going to be losing a pretty talented receiver here in the next few days. So I will be looking at my iPad. I'm going high tech and not just looking at something I wrote down. My face may light up a little bit. I'm sorry ahead of time. But that's not the receivers. There we go. So the first one is Michael Bandy. I have heard nothing but good things about Michael Bandy, and Michael Bandy has played very well in preseason. He has some slot receiver tendencies that I really like. Plus, he has great hands, and he was actually sticking on the team last year, kind of on the fringe, but he's been a very good wide receiver this year. Philip Dorsett, good veteran, he just doesn't have a skill set anymore that really fits on the team other than being a veteran. Then you have Brandon Johnson. I personally love Brandon Johnson. I think he's been a great 4th wideout. He makes tough catches. He plays great special teams. For whatever reason, he's just like that guy that seems like he always makes good plays, but they're always looking to replace him. I don't know. But I think he's going to be on the roster cut. I think they may try to bring him back with practice squad if they can. They might not, just because he's a good wideout. Then you have David Sills. He's been okay. Don't know too much about him. And then one guy that kind of hurts me is Jalen Virgil. Virgil was an undrafted rookie free agent 2 years ago that made the team. He had a really big catch. I want to say not last season, but the season before in Tennessee. And then last year he gets hurt making a play, and it just always seems like it's kind of timing with him. Great speed, good special teams guy, but there just may be too much talent on the roster ahead of him to really justify keeping another receiver. If there were guys that I think they're going to try to practice squad, it'll be Virgil and Bryant Johnson. I don't think that they can practice squad Bandy again because he's already been on there a certain amount of times and he's been promoted. So I don't know with that, but I also don't think that Bryant Johnson may not be picked up by somebody else as long as Jalen Virgil. So there's a lot of talent at receiver. Obviously, we're going to be letting somebody go out wide out, which is a bummer. But they're the breaks, as they say. And let's get to some final thoughts. Once again, thank you so much for tuning into my show. Thank you for your comments, your likes, and just giving this thing more attention than what it needs. As always, I produce 2 articles a week for leatherbrains.com. What is Leatherbrains? I'll tell you what Leatherbrains is. Leatherbrains started off as a podcast and is now branching into written work. And I already have 4 pieces out there. So I'll put my link in the description. Be sure to check it out and check out more of all this just awesome content that we're producing for Leatherbrains. Next week, we're going to have the defensive line, and then I'm going to try to get the quarterbacks in right before the end of camp so that way we are 1,000% covered and we never have to talk about this again, because it's been very traumatic for me. No, I'm not being dramatic. Stop with judging me. Stop judging me. So, in any case, remember to like, remember to share, remember to subscribe, remember to buy me presents, and as always, keep your eye on the ball. And I'll talk to you next time.